Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Roberta and thank you for subscribing to my channel because you guys keep me motivated to post more contents which are very useful for each and every one of us. While for those who have not subscribed to my channel, do subscribe now because you are going to benefit from all of my videos and I assure you that. Okay, ever since I started bullet journaling, which was 2 years ago, I actually have set goals for myself. Every year I've got to read certain number of books. And bullet journaling is something so close to my heart. I actually start falling in love with bullet journaling because I get to keep track of my goals, what I've achieved, what I've not achieved, and what I should do the next year or what I should do in the long term and so on. So this is miraculous. So this year I've actually set myself to read an equivalent of 24 books. So I've actually found that my interest is no longer in the novels in which the stories are merely created. So those kind of books are for imaginative people, but it is not for me. Yes, I do imagine things, I do get into my dreamland, but I lose attention throughout, like even in the mid part of the whole book itself. So then I just tend to, procrastinate, not read the book and not finish it as a whole. So then I actually found out the moment I touched the very first book on self-development, my attention was retained until the end of the book. And then I knew, okay, so I'm not the kind of person who wants to read novel or story-based book, but a person who likes indulging herself into books that gives me tips and tricks on how to improvise ourselves, soul, motivational books and so on. So I actually knew what kind of books I actually love. And now once you have figured out the kind of books you love or the kind of storyline you love, we will proceed to the next step. Now I'm going to tell you about the kind of tips and tricks I pursue personally in order for me to reach my goals. So I've actually set to read 24 books this year, which is 2024, in which my target is around 2 books every month. And in order to achieve that, what I do is that I do not buy any of the books. Why? It's because I get to save cost and save space. I literally have got no space to accommodate all the hundreds of books which I'll end up reading in maybe 5 years time. So I do not want to waste my money on books. I do not want to allocate a huge space for my books. So since I'm a student, I actually borrow my books from the main library of my campus. So this way I actually get to read the books within the deadline, because most of the books we have to return within 2 to 3 weeks, and thus I actually have this pressure. Pressure is very important for us to be able to complete reading the book. So with this slight pressure that I actually have only 1 week left to complete the book, I'll actually have this consistent habit of reading at least 30 pages every morning. So you don't necessarily have to buy all the books to actually read. You can just borrow them and you actually get to save costs, you get to save space, and also you actually get to read as many books as you want without being choosy. Imagine you took the first book and halfway through the book you don't like it, so it's a waste of money. Moving on, I've actually given you guys some tips and tricks on how to achieve the number of books you want to read. So let me see how many books I've actually read until today, which is the 20th of June 2024. Okay, as you can see, this is the number of books I've actually read up to 20th of June 2024, which are 10 books. And certain months you might be very busy, so what could you do? What I would normally do is that I go to the library, and I knew that month is a busy month. All I do is that since my goal is 2 books in a month, I'll go for quite a thin book. And so from there I will actually look at the summary or the synopsis of the book at the back of the book, and if it is interesting, if I think that storyline truly touches my soul, is going to teach me something, then I will actually borrow it. But if I think that is just another book that's not going to teach me anything, or I'm going to lose my focus and concentration because even the summary is boring, I will never choose the book. But sometimes you should know, a book that may be thicker may have a larger font, and you will be able to read that book and complete it faster than a book that is smaller in size but the font is super small and it has got a lot of writings, and that is going to delay your timing too. So you must be able to flip through the book, and if you see the font is perfect, it's easy to read. Also looking at the vocabulary, the words used, the sentences made in the book, just compare and see whether the sentences are simple or sophisticated, because sometimes some books actually utilize a set of bombastic words which will need you to use a dictionary and so on, okay, other references, and this may also drag your time. So you have to be clever at this point. However, what if you really want to borrow that book, but it's a thick book and it's going to consume a lot of time, but you don't have the time? Keep it for the next month, maybe when you are probably less busy. So I hope you truly get my points here. So I've actually given you guys very important tips and tricks on how to actually read as many books as possible. Now, what about speed reading? I've actually been coming across a lot of videos that does speed reading. Okay, that is certainly up to you yourself. If you are an individual who can actually read word by word, like super quick, then it is good for you. But the most important thing about reading self-development books is that you must be able to understand what you read. Highlight the points, highlight the sentences, write down those important quotes, write down those important points or tips that you actually learned that you need to utilize in your life in a piece of paper, or perhaps flashcards, or perhaps in your bullet journal. So what I normally do is that whatever principles or tips that I actually learned from the book, I list them down in my bullet journal itself. I'll show you the example. So this is my bullet journal. And here, recently I've actually read The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari by Robin Sharma. It truly is a book I would recommend you guys to read because it truly changed my life and the way I think and the way I've actually retained information. I want to just make sure my brain is fully functionable. I am so excited to actually learn new knowledge because of this book itself. So this is what I actually do. As you can see, I write down the name of the book and the author and highlight it. And then I just list down whatever I think is very important for me to apply in my life or very important for me to refer to whenever I forget, because I am going to return the book to my library anyways. After reading the book titled The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, I've actually write down so many rituals, steps to follow and so on for my future references and also for me to make changes myself. Remember, every book you borrow must impact you positively in a way. Every chapter has got to teach you something, or else there is no point of you reading that chapter, or there is no point of you reading that book itself. Let me give you an example here from the book A Monk Who Have Sold His Ferrari. 5 steps to actually get our goals, to reach our goals. Firstly, you need to set mental picture, because everything is actually created twice in the world. The first is in the mind itself and the second is in the reality. That is why our mental picture is very important, and that is what has been emphasized in the book itself. Second step is you have to create a little pressure, create deadlines by when you must attain the goal. For an example, I could just imagine right now of me finishing my thesis, and then I have to set this pressure itself by which week I must be able to complete the draft and submit to my supervisor to check it. So this is the kind of thing. And the third step has been proposed as set precise deadline. As I mentioned, you need to have precise deadline. You can't just say next week. When, what time, and how are you going to do it? These are all very important. Fourthly is commit to paper. This is something which I started thinking about because it says you just having these thoughts mentally, these pictures coming into your thoughts mentally is not everything. Actually, you have to write it down. Okay, because the moment you write it down, it registers into your brain that wow, this is very important for you to achieve, and there has been a deadline set to it, and thus your brain will make sure out of all the various thoughts, it only focuses on that. Okay, and the fifth step is magic rule of 21, in which if you practice this step for 21 days consecutively, anything, be it in terms of your meditation, a new habit, or this whole steps of getting your goal, you will achieve your goal easily. Your whole new act will become a habit, and then you will not even need some motivation to keep you going because it is part of your routine. See, that is what the book has actually told me personally and everyone who reads it. Books that are actually filled with certain important knowledge are very important, and it is very important to write it down because it is also mentioned by the book itself. When you write it down, you are actually able to retain more energy into that specific thing, and you'll be able to remember the thing, and your brain will register on how important it is as a total. So I really hope that this video will be very helpful to you guys. Firstly is that I actually mentioned about my goals and how to actually achieve the number of books you want to read, and then I've also given you tips and tricks on how to actually read so many books but with zero cost, which is by borrowing it in the nearest library, or maybe by exchanging your books with one another. You can also exchange your books with your friends, with your neighbor, and so on. So this can be a great way to actually save space and save cost. And then I've also touched on whether the speed reading is necessary or not. but importantly, you all have to know is that you do you. And finally, I've also given some tips on how to actually retain information by what you read, because only then you can be a good storyteller. In order for you to tell to the others about what you've actually attained from the book itself, always write it down. Make sure apply what you've actually learned in your daily life. Only then you know that the book is really making a change in your life. Remember, do subscribe to my channel to show some love, and this will certainly keep me motivated to post more videos as such.